Hi, my name is Joseph Schmalke. I'm the writer and artist for We Don't Kill Spiders, 7 Years in Darkness, and I'm the publisher at Midnight Factory. Your childhood was trash if you didn't read Kraven's Last Hunt.
Whoever you are, this is none of your
Oh, I got other things I can do.
It's not like you're a working artist or anything, right?
Yeah, this week is so I'm in world building mode. So it's all drawing and mostly writing, though.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, my head's in like a different kind of mindset than it typically is, where I'm just like cranking through pages.
Yeah.
So I do a lot of like variant cover stuff for other companies. I've got MegaCon coming up in a couple of weeks, and this is my downtime for the entire year. Like I don't get another break till June.
That's crazy.
And then after that, it's not until December.
Wow.
So, I have to write all the stuff I have to draw for the rest of the year.
Yeah.
That's where I'm at, right?
And then make appearances and do signings.
Yeah, and... with the news of Diamond and stuff yesterday, it's very much, I have to get in front of people because I am a smaller publisher now.
Yeah.
No longer with another larger company. So it's good that I'm on the road and that I'm like wanted at all these other shows, but it just chews up whatever bandwidth I have for, and I'm still a dad and everything.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Definitely a lot going on, I guess. But tell us about Kraven's Last Hunt. You said that was the book that got all this started for you, right?
So I spent my summers in Kenner, Louisiana. My father worked construction. If you don't know where Kenner is, it's basically part of New Orleans. And one of the things me and my dad had in common was we read comic books, right? So the first book series that I was really into with him was Conan the Barbarian. So I've always been partial to like Barry Windsor Smith's art. And then as I got a little bit older, my dad Punisher had just been, had a mini series come out. And that was supposed to be 5 issues. I think it turned into 6 at the last minute. Like every single issue was like 5-issue series. And then all of a sudden issue 6 came out.
Surprise.
But Mike Zeck's artwork was very attractive to me. I thought it was really good. And so I saw he was doing a run on, it was going through Web of Spider-Man, Amazing Spider-Man, and Peter Parker, Spectacular Spider-Man. And it was called Kraven's Last Hunt. And I don't know if it was really meant for kids when I was reading it, because we were buying it as it was coming out on the newsstands.
Yeah.
And that was the thing too. There was newsstands. You could go to the grocery store and you're like, oh, there's the new.
Yeah.
And that would be like one of the things we would do. We would hit up like a grocery store. There was like Woolworth. I don't know if you guys know what a Woolworth is, but that used to be like a chain in the South. There'd be a Piggly Wiggly was like a grocery store, or Winn-Dixie. So we were bouncing around to those 3 locations, and then there was one comic book shop. But that guy, his hours were weird. We never knew when he was going to be open because it was the 80s. Yeah. So we ended up getting the series, or at least I ended up getting the series. My dad wasn't really interested because he saw Spider-Man and he was just like, I'm good. But so it dealt with all these different things. First, Spider-Man gets captured by Kraven, who was very much like a throwaway character for a Spider-Man villain.
Yeah.
At the time, he was just like a Russian hunter. There was nothing really menacing about him. He wore like his outfit was stupid too. It had like a lion on it, and he wore like a loincloth. You're like,
I was gonna say it used to be super like I'm a weird version of Tarzan.
Yeah. I like what they did with him in the Ultimate Universe, but that's neither here nor there. He ended up taking like the same. He ended up taking animal DNA so he could turn into animals or something. Yeah,
as one does.
Anyway, so he captures Spider-Man, or he get. Let me back up. It starts off with Peter in his black suit going to the funeral of a local criminal, which I believe was Joe Chill, and I can't remember if in regular Marvel continuity he's the guy that shot Uncle Ben. Do you guys know?
No.
I think he was suspected of it. I can't remember, and I'm sure somebody's going to be like, "You're an idiot." Of course he was, or no,
Yeah,
he wasn't at all. Anyway, so he goes to this funeral, and it's all these like low lives and thugs, and Peter pulls out like a wad of cash and throws it in his casket, and he's like, "Do something better with him than this," you know. And then he leaves, and he's being hunted, right, by Kraven. Kraven gets him, and he's like, Kraven's acting crazy compared to what his previous interactions with him had been. And I don't think Kraven had appeared in the comics for like hundreds of issues or something. He was more of a Silver Age villain. And all of a sudden he realizes Kraven's going to blow his head off. And then the issue ends with him shooting Spider-Man. And you're like, oh shit, he killed Spider-Man. And then the next issue comes out, and it turns out that he buries Spider-Man, right? So he got him, he buries him, and then he takes on the mantle of Spider-Man. He takes his black suit and he wears it. And while this is all happening, I forgot to mention that Vermin is on the loose, who's a Captain America bad guy, and he's like a giant rat. And he's crazy, but he's capturing women in Manhattan and dragging them down to the sewer and eating them. So right there, you've got cannibalism, lots of death. And this is a kid's book, right? So in issue 2, he dresses as Spider-Man, and there's this whole sequence where he has to become Spider-Man. So he puts himself in this vat of spiders, and they're all falling down on him, and he's just grabbing handfuls of them and like eating them.
This is how I do it.
It's just like, you're like, this is crazy. It's so gross. And like, so I think I liked it because it reminded me of some of the other stuff my dad had shown me, which was like eerie tales or Tales from the Crypt, stuff like that. It was more of a horror comic in the disguise of a superhero book. So that was the attraction there, right? Anyways, so Kraven takes on his mantle, goes around. He finds Vermin at some point and beats him near death.
Huh.
But he's also going around and like breaking people's arms, and like I think he kills a couple of guys dressed as Spider-Man.
Yeah.
So Mary Jane sees him, knows that that's not Peter.
Yeah.
Like they encounter each other on the street, and she's like, "Oh my God, where's Peter?" You know, because that's not him. And this guy is like a lunatic, whoever it is. And then you find out Spider-Man's been alive the whole time. He was drugged and buried alive. And then he breaks out of his coffin.
Yeah.
And then he confronts Kraven. And all the while, I've also glossed over the fact that Kraven keeps talking about his mentally ill mother who committed suicide. Deep stuff for like, a preteen to be like checking out. And so he breaks out and he goes after Kraven. And it's just 2 panels of the whole book. But Kraven like makes a pass at him. Like tries to kiss him. And Spider-Man's like, "What the hell are you doing?" And then he's like, "I'm going to come back for you. We're going to settle this." And Spider-Man takes off. And then Kraven blows his brains out.
Oh, jeez.
Then Spider-Man has to go and stop Vermin, who's still cannibalizing women. And now he's like totally shithouse rat crazy.
Yeah.
And now that he thinks that Spider-Man will kill him if they confront each other, he like tries to kill Peter Parker, and Peter Parker has to subdue him. And that's pretty much the end of that storyline. And then it's followed up immediately, because I was like, oh, what are they going to do that's next? With Bill Sienkiewicz doing the artwork for a 3-issue series that went across the 3 books like the previous 3 did. And it was called Mad Dog Ward. And I don't think he's in his suit at all in this. Peter's in a mental asylum for 3 issues.
Whoa.
It was great. And also not really a kid comic. So it's funny later on in life, through various connections and stuff, I'm able to get Bill Sienkiewicz to do covers for me. It's all full circle.
There you go.
But yeah, I got to talk to Mike Zeck briefly at a show. Didn't let him know I was there as a creator or anything. Went up as a fan, brought him my copy, which I still had, still have, and he's looking at it like this is a well-read copy of, Kraven's Last Hunt. It was the Amazing Spider-Man issue, which is actually, I think it's part 2 of the run, not part 1, which would have been Web Up. Anyway, and I was like, this book, you really inspired me to. This was like one of my favorite stories. He goes, I'm assuming you read this as a kid. And I'm like, yes. And he goes, a lot to take in as a kid. And I was like, yes, it was. And he's like, yeah, maybe you shouldn't have been reading it at that age. And I was like, you knew it. You knew I shouldn't have been reading it.
Definitely not.
But that was like a gateway into that comic books were more than just like jackasses running around in costumes fighting the villain of the week.
Yeah.
And which led me into delving deeper into, I think Stephen King had done the intro to Dark Knight Returns as a collected edition at that point. And I remember when it came out at the newsstands, but it was a deluxe format book. So I could get 2 regular comics or I could get one of these. And I was like, I'll wait. But then so many people raved about it. I waited. The trade had come out, bought that. That was amazing. Killing Joke had come out.
Oh, yeah.
Bought that immediately when it came out because I was like, all right, I'm not missing the boat on this one. Yeah. And then Watchmen, of course. All of these combined together to make what I considered to be, some of the great stories of my youth. And then, I mean, it's unfortunate what's happening now, but Sandman was coming out at that time too, and I thought that was a pretty brilliant book. So I collected that entire run. And then, yeah, and that's when I decided, like, I probably wasn't going to be your superhero guy. I never was. I might do something interesting with a property. And I did pitch Marvel on my idea for Legion of Monsters. I was asked by the editor at that time if I wanted to write or draw it. And I said I wanted to do both. And they're like, well, you won't be doing both. And I was like, then you got my contact info and you can reach out to me when you think I can do both.
Yeah.
No real desire to work for them at this point anymore. I don't think the properties are being treated well. I don't think the creativeness that they used to allow the industry to, Chris Claremont making Dark Phoenix Saga. I don't know if that could happen today.
Yeah.
So indie comics is where it's at. I've been doing indie books now for I started full time around 2015, 16, somewhere in there. And yeah, it's been good. And I do fall into a niche. I'm the horror guy, right? Like that's pretty much all I produce.
Nothing wrong with that.
It makes it easy, right? People, they're not everybody's going to like it, but I think people can sense what it is that I'm doing, and there's no confusion about it. With that being said, there is one book on my table that I write. It used to be like a running joke that I'd only create the book or I'd only write the book whenever I was wasted. But now I've been writing the scripts sober, and they're much better. But that's the book Murder Hobo.
Okay.
So that's the one weird book on my table. So me and my wife, we launched our own company in June of last year. We got distribution, which is now up in the air. But we're called Midnight Factory, and our focus on it is on horror, science fiction, and the bizarre. The Murder Hobo stuff definitely falls into the bizarre category.
As it would.
Yeah, if you're like a fan of, so I like Dungeons and Dragons and sword and sorcery and stuff like that. So I get to like sort of scratch that itch for those things there, but also. So initially I created the series with a guy, Jason Lynch. He clearly didn't want to be a comic book artist. he's a great designer. He's very brilliant artist in his own right, but he's not a sequential guy. So I had to move on and find another creator to work with. And immediately, as soon as we had put out our ash can for the very first issue of Murder Hobo, he was seated next to this guy, Ryan G. Brown. So Ryan is the Murder Hobo artist. The minute he saw the property, he wanted to be a piece of it. He did a variant cover for issue 1, and it was like the second most popular. The most popular was this really limited edition. We call it the sloppy dildo cover, and that was done by Brian Silverback, laid out by Rich Woodall. And so yeah, after I saw Ryan's work on a couple of the cover pieces, Jason was falling behind on doing interiors. I had Ryan fill in, and then those were really some of the first sequentials Ryan had ever done that were published. I offered him the job to become the full-time artist on the series, and now he is. So it kind of runs at his pace, but it's fun to check in with him and be like, what do you feel like drawing for this issue? Because it's pretty lowbrow humor, you know?
Yeah.
And he'll be like, I'd really like to draw my own version of the Justice League, but in like medieval garb. And I'm like, done. I'm going to make you a Batman, a Superman, and everything else. And we're going to beat them up and do horrible things to them. So, so there's that book. But as far as like, back to the horror influences and stuff that I had, I've never done anything quite as deep as a Kraven's Last Hunt, because it deals with some pretty serious subject matter, I think.
Yeah.
I made some grindhouse, like over the top horror comics, Infernal Pact and Cherry Blackbird. Cherry Blackbird is pretty sad. I've had a lot of people read the book, they love it, but they're like, that's it? And I'm like, that's it. That's the whole story. And then went into a longer series with We Don't Kill Spiders, which I've said this to people numerous times. This is the book I'm probably going to draw for the rest of my life. It'll be done in chunks, segments, but this is like it's very it delves into all the stuff I like. So like I said early on, Conan the Barbarian was one of my early favorites. As far as just aesthetically, I like sword and sorcery.
Yeah.
I also like things to be grounded in reality. And Hyboria, where Conan takes place, isn't, it's not identifiable really. It could be in anywhere. I wanted to place something in the real world. So the Viking Age was the thing that I thought was closest to Conan's Hyborian Age, as far as you're on the cusp of there's no guns, like there's no mechanics going on, right? People are still like forging steel and stuff like that. And I also thought it lent itself to a lot of the witchy and mythical stuff that I could get into, and I do like delving into a deep mythos, and so I borrow from history, I borrow from religions, and sort of redevelop them into the thing I want them to be. And a lot of people have just been like, "Oh, so this is like X-Files, but during the Viking Age," and I'm like, "Yeah, I guess so." So it's a Norse detective and a necromantic witch. This is volume 1. Hunting a serial killer during the Viking Age. That's the story. The continuing story. So I'm working on that now. It's Season of the Witch. We Don't Kill Spiders. Season of the Witch. The longest title I could have possibly thought of. And it's the witch and the detective are trailing a cult that will lead them to this demonic entity they encountered in the first series. So that's the pitch for that one. And then, of course, I'm in the middle of a 7-year-long project that grows with my children, and it's horror based. And my daughter is in her own right, a very good storyteller she turned 14 this year. She has a web comic on Webtoons called Fish Valley. It's post-apocalyptic tale about a little girl growing up in a world of mutants. Horrible things are happening.
Huh.
So, me and her talk a lot about the craft of creating comics. She, of course, comes from a new generation of readers and creators. And it's always interesting to see the potential of where the industry is going to go, because she's web-based, right?
Yeah.
I offered to print her book, and she's like, that's not the intention of this. The
Yeah.
intention of this is that you look at it on your tablet or your phone or your desktop. Okay, I understand. I'm actually toying with the idea of just doing it myself. But so the book grows with my kids. I listen to them and their daily exploits with their friends and the stuff they get up to. And so little bits of that come out, but it's like some of my own personal stuff from my childhood can be in there as well. But it's about a group of children conscripted to the Academy of Black Magic for 7 years. And while these 72 children forcibly go in, only 7 can walk out alive. So it's a coming of age story with high stakes. And you'd be like, well, is it like Battle Royale? They just go in and start like wiping each other out. Well, that happens. And then you quickly find out there are rules. And the kids that attempt to do this, the hammer comes down on them. They get wiped out immediately. So the numbers get culled from issue 2 on.
Yeah.
You can't do that. You can't just go around willy-nilly killing each other.
Yeah.
The magic itself that they're delving into, this dark craft that they're studying, they're studying forbidden tomes and arcane rituals of blood magic, and not everybody survives. That's really what gets most of them. So yeah, it's a dark story. It's an interesting story. Again, it deals with all the stuff that I was speaking of previously. Like since this is the one and only Academy of Black Magic, it's not just a bunch of American kids in there. It's not a bunch of boys. It's kids from all over the world, and their families are all in on this. They've dedicated their bloodline to this school of magic, and they themselves, a lot of them, are practicing magicians, or they're part of a larger, I guess you could say, religious order. So yeah, and then coming up later this year, I do have a need to like step outside the boundaries of just always being in a dark, gloomy place. And even though this is dark and gloomy, it's also like Blade Runner is a dark film, but it's also bright in certain ways, right? So this is like a cyberpunk tale that I'm doing with J.K. Woodward, who he's worked on Beast Origins for Marvel. He had his own series, Fallen Angel, with Marvel. He's well known for his Star Trek work. And if you haven't seen his stuff, he does, it's almost photorealistic paintings.
Yeah. That's a good way to put
And
it. I was trying to figure
there's
it out.
almost no digital touch-ups on any of his work that I can see that he's ever done.
Nice.
But he's trying a new technique with this book where I looked at his illustrations and I'm like, damn, these are, in some ways, I like his illustrations better in certain ways than I do his paintings. I love both.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I wouldn't be I never work with somebody that I think is worse than me. It's always somebody that's better than me.
Yeah, good way to.
But I was like, damn, when I saw his illustrations, I was like, what do you think about illustrating this? First, I pitched him on it. So here's the pitch. Cybernetic escort uncovers a plot by the corporation that made her to enslave humanity to eldritch beings. So I gave him the more long-winded pitch where he knows the ending of this book, and he was like, I want to work on this with you.
Nice.
I was like, great. So we started talking about what style he would use, and he's doing a mixture of both his illustration and his painting. So it's taking him a little bit longer to do his pages, but they look fantastic. And issue 1 should be out this October. So that's more of it's a combo. It's a horror sci-fi book. And then I just got in the 8-page preview is completed by Amanda Call, who's my partner on Prophets of Doom is the name of our book. And this one falls into more of like a horror bazaar thing. And evangelicals have for years been testifying that the end of the world is coming.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, it doesn't come. So they start losing their parishioners. They figure out a way to supercharge the apocalypse. And it comes with them obtaining this forbidden tome and raising the 5 ancient evils to invade heaven. So that's what the story is. The 5 ancient evils invade heaven and trigger the apocalypse. But it's very like dark humor.
Yeah.
Like there's a Frankenstein. Actually, this was full disclosure. This was my pitch to Marvel for our Legion of Monsters. So it's my version of them.
Yeah.
So Amanda's been
enjoyable.
doing the artwork for it. The pages look fantastic. She has this like kind of Darrow-esque, lots of little details and stuff going on, and stuff that I would cover up with a lot of shadow. She's bringing to light, which I think is kind of cool. And she did most of the preliminary design for all the characters as well. So that book will be coming out. It's a 3-issue series. It'll come out next year, but the 8-issue Ashcan will be premiering at San Diego, and it will be free. So people
Nice.
that was the other thing. Midnight Factory, me and my wife, we applied for a small press at San Diego. We got in, so we're setting up this year in the small press area at San Diego. But she's also traveling with me pretty much all year. Where we're going to be promoting, all of our properties pretty readily. And because we're small, there isn't a lot. I think October is our big month. We have a new #1, which would be One Last Trick. Then we're going to have 7 Years in Darkness, Year 3, number 3, and then We Don't Kill Spiders, Season of the Witch, number 2.
Wow.
So all of that comes out at once, but really the highlight of that month is One Last Trick. And then, the great news about indie creating, at least in my mind, is I could fill my schedule until I die at this point.
Sure.
And like I said, with 7 Years in Darkness, there's another 4 years of it after this year. And then We Don't Kill Spiders, after I'm done with Volume 2, we'll go into a slight hiatus, but it will be back. It'll always come back because I love that book.
Yeah.
And I love the characters in it. It's a crime procedural in Viking era.
Yeah.
It's like it's got all the stuff I like. And that's the other thing. I listen to a lot of true crime. So I'm kind of scratching that itch that I get.
Yeah, sure.
And it's good to take a step back from that every once in a while. I was in talks at New York, might be working on a bigger property that's indie maybe this year, maybe next. I'm still in talks. So don't want to ruin that by mentioning it by name.
Yeah.
Don't worry about
it.
And for those that don't know, a lot of the indie stuff, in actuality, comics, just from concept to like production, takes a very long period of time.
Yeah, part of the reason I left the publisher I was with, CEX, over 7 Years in Darkness, was there was chronic production issues. Not necessarily their fault, but they were printing overseas, and the wait times between when you get your solicitation out and you get your orders in, they have to put those orders in and then turn them back around in order to get them on shelves. It just was never meeting the deadline.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah. It's okay if that's once or twice. It was every issue.
Yeah.
So I wish them the best of luck. They, Andy Schmidt is a pretty well-known editor that worked for Marvel and IDW for years. And so that's his company. And I know they're continuing with their own line of books over there. So And then again, Black Caravan, where We Don't Kill Spiders started in, that shut down back in 2022. That was me and Rich Woodall's. We were the primary holders of that company. We just wanted to go in a different direction with how we were putting out books, and it didn't align with Scout's values, and we had to sort of separate at that point from them, and so we shut down Black Caravan altogether. Yeah, so it's been after going through 2 publishers. Actually, this would be my 3rd, because the first publishers I was with was when I started out. I was making a book called Calamitous Black Devils. Good luck finding it today. I was putting that out through a company, Broken Icon. They are still around, but after a couple of years with them, I got out of that. So three contracts that didn't quite work out. The common denominator of things not working out is me. It just made sense for me to start my own company rather than deal with other people. So,
I mean, that's really one smart way to handle it. Is you're like, you know what, I will be happier if this.
Yeah. Now all the problems, I've created them.
Yeah.
Right. There's no finger pointing. Nobody has wronged me. This isn't the way I wanted things. Yada yada.
Right.
And it is possible, because I think Rich has told me that I work best on my own. So Woodall and I have worked together for several years, so I think he knows me pretty well. But yeah, I'm excited to keep working with the creators I pick. And again, I always pick people that I think are better than me at their skill, or they're bringing something to it that I didn't think I would be able to. So, yeah.
Bringing something out of it that you weren't able to see, like you mentioned.
Yeah, I think I'm close to We Don't Kill Spiders and 7 Years in Darkness, right? Like I don't want anybody else to draw those.
Yeah.
And if all I was ever drawing for the rest of my life was We Don't Kill Spiders, I'd be so happy. But nobody's paying me to do that. So I mean, people buy the books and stuff, and it's there's a hardbound edition of it out now. We are going to put out a softbound edition of it, hopefully by the end of the year. It's one of these things that's sort of up in the air, where we got to see how things work out with
certain changes coming through.
Certain changes that are adrift, that are wafting through the air. Whether or not you know it, if I wanted to print the same amount of books here in America, and I'm talking about trades, not floppies. Floppies I'll always print in the U.S. But if I wanted to print trades in America, I can get 3 times the amount for the same price in China.
Oh, wow.
And really it comes down to, this is how I make a living.
Yeah.
It's not me being cheap. It's not me trying to, my books are priced along the lines with everyone else. But the truth of the matter is, on the direct market, it doesn't matter who you're with. If you're with Lunar or Diamond or Universal, they take a 60% discount off the cover price. Right there, you're losing money. Plus, you had to pay for the printing.
Yeah.
Your profit margins are razor thin.
Yeah.
And in some companies, I've seen them actually pay for people to buy their book, and that's insane.
Wow.
And that's why some small publishers go out of business. We're not going to be that way.
Yeah.
I'm always reading the tea leaves, and I'm very good at reading the writing on the wall. If things look like they're about to collapse, I will back off.
Yeah.
I won't just keep throwing money at a problem that is getting worse. So,
good way to look at it.
Yeah, but this is an evolving industry, right? Marvel almost went bankrupt back in the 90s. Now they're one of the most profitable.
Thanks to the movies.
Hollywood's like a double-edged sword, right? Because it brings in non-collectors to see what this is about. It brings them into the conventions. It makes them part of the community. They wouldn't have stopped at a comic book shop before, but now it's okay to do that.
Yeah.
Kind of cool now.
Yeah, it's more mainstream than it is, this little.
Shadows, no
I mean,
pun intended.
the truth of it is, we are the cheapest way for Hollywood to develop IP.
Yeah.
And that's just a fact. And I've had a couple of me and Rich had Electric Black optioned by Starburns. I've had Murder Hobo optioned by Jonathan Caden, who used to be one of the top guys at Sony.
Nice.
I've had We Don't Kill Spiders was optioned by Blackbird Entertainment. Of course, a lot of these things fell apart because of two things: COVID and writer's strike.
Yeah.
And then
do it.
the actor's strike following. But yeah, it's interesting. I like the attention it brings to the books, but ultimately, when you're not able to, when Hollywood's dictating to you, a producer, a non-creative, I should say, is dictating to the creatives how to do their job. That's where you run into problems and uninteresting content because they're trying to make money.
Yeah.
Right? They don't want to take chances.
No.
They don't want to do something different.
They want the moneymaker.
And we've talked about that on the show a number of times. Actually, is like we've talked about it in the aspect of like something we were talking about earlier. The new ideas just aren't flowing, right? Like it's we're not going to get anything that we used to get back in the day, where it was like these movies were made for a few $1,000,000 and ended up being massive household names for the rest of our lives. But let's make a live action version of this, or let's remake this movie, or like let's turn this beloved movie into a mini series. And it's like, cool. Like, I like that stuff, right? Like, will I watch the mini series coming out for Harry Potter? Probably. Am I do I think they should
do they have to do it again?
No.
Probably not.
Like, could they give us any one of the other things from the series that we would all love instead? Sure, like that's what they should do, but it's an unmarked territory. So like you're talking about, it's not risk taking, it's not chance taking. Like those things are coming out fewer and farther between. And
I think they like a sure thing. They want to make sure that they're getting their money back, which you don't blame them. I just told
Right.
you, like, I print overseas for a reason because I'm not made of money, right?
Right. No, and that's totally like understandable. Like
I
these
do
are
think
businesses, right?
I think the movie market changed along with, these IPs all of a sudden being sucked up into the movie realm, right? So think about it. The streaming alone, what was it? Black Widow came out during the pandemic. The movie was considered like a box office flop. Well, no one's at the movie theaters, dude.
Yeah.
And then you started streaming it. Like, why didn't they just hold off for a little bit? I'm sure it was some contractual thing where X amount of time to put the movie out. You never know. But
right. And
I think the way that people view content now,
massively different from when we were kids.
Yeah.
my wife was telling me that they literally make shows now that are meant for you to be on your phone while the show's on. So they're telling you too much information. They're like, oh, you should really pay attention right now because I'm holding a gun, because that's going to come out later in like the third act or something. And so
Really?
there are certain shows I have watched, and I won't shit on anybody's writing or shows,
obviously.
but I'm like, wow, this is pretty stupid. Like this is really dumbed down TV. I'm seeing it more and more.
Give me at least one example.
Okay, I like Sylvester Stallone.
Yeah.
So I was like, Tulsa King sounds awesome. And I was like, Jesus Christ, this show is written by a dummy or something. I know he's beloved and everybody loves it. And I watched the whole damn series.
Yeah.
Okay, so mind you, sitting here going like, this is terrible. I couldn't stop watching it. It was like potato chips. and again, I like Stallone. So, but yeah, it's not a well-written show.
Yeah, that's unfortunate.
And it seems like it's one of what is it? Taylor Sheridan or something is the guy who does like the Kevin Costner show about the old Yellowstone.
Yeah, okay.
Oh yeah.
And then he does Landman.
The one.
Dude,
like
the guy
Billy
is
Bob
like
Thornton.
a machine churning these things
Yeah,
out,
yeah.
but they're not well written. You know. Again, I shouldn't crap on anybody's. The guy, he could give two shits what Joe Schmalke thinks about his writing as he's on his like yacht and
Taking a shit in
having
his golden
oyster
dome.
shooters. Yeah, no,
You actually have that. That's fine.
no.
Everyone's got their opinion. That's what it comes down to.
Well,
you
you ever hear Patton Oswalt's skit about KFC? And he's like, yeah, the double down, you know.
Yeah.
Apparently that made its way back to the guy who owns Yummy Brands or something, which is KFC's parent company.
Yeah, okay.
And they're like, what do you think about Patton Oswalt's skit about the double down sandwich? Well, if Mr. Oswald could just see the smile on these people's faces as they enjoy a famous bowl. And Patton's like, why did he say anything? He didn't have to say any. Like, he's a billionaire. Why does he give a shit what I think at all?
Yeah.
Let's be clear. The double down. I never ate one, but even I'm in kind of like
Never had a double down myself. I did. Okay, so my wife's aunt came and stayed with me for a week. She was really difficult to feed. She was an older lady.
Sure.
She's passed away.
Yeah.
But and it clearly had, you know, like medical diabetic issues or something. So I wasn't thinking clearly, but I was like, all right, I just got to feed this woman something.
Yeah.
She needs to eat something, right?
Yeah.
So I went out and I got her a Famous bowl.
Nice.
And she's like, oh, what's this? And I'm like, something that's clearly off diet for you. I'm like, but you're going to love it. And at the time, I do remember she was binge watching Longmire, which was the Wyoming cop show.
Yeah.
And so there she is. She's like, this is amazing. She's eating her KFC Famous bowl and like watching Longmire. And I was like, yeah, this is a pretty good life. Yeah. What's wrong with it?
I mean, look, I've talked about this, and like, I don't think I've brought it up on the show before, but like Wendy's used to do the double the beef for like 80 cents or whatever.
Oh yeah.
So me and my friends figured out you can double the beef on any sandwich. So do you want a triple cheeseburger, double the beef? Yes, please. So it's 6 patties of burger.
Did you do it?
Of course I did.
Oh, wow.
Of course I did.
That's why it's not cholesterol medication now.
Exactly, 100%. I definitely did that and still had a side nug because you couldn't go to Wendy's in the early 2000s or late 90s.
How old are you?
I'm 41.
Okay.
Not sure where we'll go after that, but you know, so I definitely had it more than once as well because I ended up going with another group of people who like didn't believe it was possible. So I was like, all right, let's go to Wendy's. So yeah, I still think one of my favorite ways to order it was my buddy who ordered it the first time with me. He's like, don't give me any of that veggie shit on there. Add bacon. They're like, okay, so just to be clear, you want a triple cheeseburger, double the beef, no lettuce or tomato, but add bacon. And he's like, yeah.
Double the bacon.
No, that wasn't part of the deal. It was just double the beef, double the meat on the sandwich. So and we also figured out, like, it also worked on chicken sandwiches. So a buddy of mine who was like, I don't want 6 patties, got like double spicy chicken sandwiches. So when they came out with the double down, I was like, oh, you just take the bread off? Like I was doing that 10 years ago. Come on.
That's crazy.
Look.
Now, I knew that there were things you could do like that, but I guess I didn't know Wendy's did it. I knew that In-N-Out did it. You could get like a 5x5 or a 6x6.
With In-N-Out, though, you can order like any number of patties and any number of cheese, but Wendy's had a very specific like you know how when McDonald's had like the B-size it and stuff like that, it was kind of like double the meat on the bun. I think they meant for it to be used on like single cheeseburgers or like Dave's single or whatever.
They didn't realize that you were going to take it to this like horrible.
Yeah. Like, and all they had to do was say no, and it's not like nobody ever.
Now
said
they know
no
what
to
you're
us.
doing.
Yeah. I think
They're like, if this guy drives up with a gun in his mouth, it won't be surprising.
It's called the triple cheeseburger, double the beef. That's what the gun was. But 3 rappers is what it took, because like 1 rapper didn't fit around it, and 2 rappers was weird.
I hope you tipped them.
It's Wendy's drive-through
Oh
is
my
typically so probably not. Sorry, Wendy's people.
You ever see the Dave Chappelle where he goes to the Haters Club?
Yeah.
He goes, and after I drink a sip from this soda, which I'm sure somebody spit in. That was your triple with double the beef.
Yeah. Look, we did a lot of I have done some poor decisions food wise.
Well, at place I took you to today, Legends Rest, they did Halloween. On Halloween, they usually do some kind of, or they used to. They did a food challenge, and it was this. It was a Reaper sauce that they had made just for that day.
Yeah.
And if you could finish all the wings in a half hour, your wings were free, and you got a shirt.
Nice.
Fantastic.
So I knew that this was going to happen, and I brought Bishop and Ryan Wing and Dylan. So it was basically studio guys were all there, and Dylan, first off, would never do a food challenge. That's just not his thing. He doesn't eat like meat generally, but certainly not a spicy food challenge.
Poor guy.
And then Ryan and Ben, they always do a spicy food challenge with me and immediately like chicken out. Like they go, oh, nope, done. But I'm already in it,
man.
see? So I think Ben...
You're like, I'm 4 wings deep, man.
Well, I had a method to it because all the flats, right? You can't just like do that and eat all the meat off of it, right? So I had to break apart each of the flats with one of my hands because I didn't want to touch my eyes or anything else.
Oh no, you gotta have.
You got the one hand that's infected.
Yeah.
With the spice. So I broke apart all the flats, and as I'm doing that, Ryan's like, nope, I'm done. And then Ben went in. He had his first drum. He's like, I don't know, it's not that bad. Went in for the second, took a bite, and he goes, nope, I'm done. Then I was done breaking up my flats, and I just ripped through all of them. There are photos of me where I am like, I don't remember the photo being taken because the capsaicin like hits your head in a certain way, and you start like getting double vision.
Yeah.
But I got the shirt, which Ben was super jelly of. It's a Westbrook shirt, and my wings were free. But
that's the important part, because
me and my wife took our kids out trick or treating later, and I had to leave them in a neighborhood so I could run home and deal with myself. So my wife was pretty upset about that. She's like, you're not doing any more stupid food challenges. A year later, we did the hot chip challenge. I'm the only one who did, like Ryan took a little bite. Oh, I can't do anymore. Dylan was just like, you guys are insane. And then Ben, little piece of the chip, and then was like, no, this tastes horrible. It was like eating... I can only imagine this is what it tastes like if you chiseled off a piece of the elephant's foot at Chernobyl and like put it on a chip. It just tastes right. It was like a burnt tire. And I heard a kid died from it, or a couple of kids died from it this last year. So I did that. And then we did a death nut challenge, and Bob Takasik was part of that one too. He's also a frequent flyer with our group.
Oh, we know Bob.
Yeah. And I never know if I get his name right. And I've probably said it 100 times the wrong way. Is it
Tachik?
Tachik. Why can't I ever get it wrong?
It's spelled really...
Sorry,
Bob.
I was like, all right, Bob, what part of the world is this last name from? Because this isn't normal. I think he's like Serbian or something.
It's okay.
Yeah.
Well, next time you're short a company for one of those challenges, you let me know, because I love spicy food. And
no, you don't understand. I am done now.
Oh, okay.
Yes, I've retired from spicy food challenges. I did a Fire of the Dead burrito challenge.
Oh, geez.
And it was nothing but chicken and Reaper peppers inside the burrito shell. And I was like, okay, I can never do this again. So typically what I do now is like a rub. on wings because I don't like my hands being messy either.
Yeah.
And then I dip into sauces.
Look, I'm also not going to Wendy's and ordering a triple cheeseburger, double the beef anymore. I think or double the meat. I think they took that option away once they realized
they were like, people are killing themselves.
Yeah, people. Yeah. I wouldn't be shocked. Like this was how it ended up, but I don't think it's an option. And even if it was, I definitely.
Yeah, there comes a time where you're like,
yeah,
that's not a good option.
Maybe
anymore.
I haven't learned my lesson yet because I love the spice and I love wings and the hot stuff. And
I mean, I'll do spicy wings. I'm not going to do food dares.
So, like like one of my the shows I like to watch on YouTube is Hot Ones.
Hot Ones.
And
so Da Bomb, right?
It's not bad.
First off, it's a gag.
It is.
It's a gag sauce.
It is.
I remember Ben was the first person that showed me Da Bomb well before Hot Ones had come out, and I was like, "This is crap. It's just it doesn't even taste good.
No, it tastes like dirt."
Yeah. So it's pain.
Spicy?
Oh, it's just painful.
Well, here's the thing too. My friends and I did a Hot Ones challenge, and we got the gauntlet. But we went out and bought it. This is before they were like, "Hey, go to the Heatness website and buy the 10 sauces." So we're going through the whole thing, and by the time we got to Da Bomb, we were all crying in like so much pain. It turns out that we didn't get Da Bomb Beyond Insanity, which is on the show. We got Da Bomb Ground Zero, which is 3 times hotter. So we were like running the faucet, sticking our tongue under it. We had gallons of milk. We were just like
water bad.
No,
good. Yes.
Yeah.
Well, the milk wasn't helping, so there's like any relief. No, we knew. We were just.
But that's the thing. Like, Da Bomb is nothing but pure capsaicin. It's not even really a pepper.
No, it's disgusting. Like the Last Dab's, it's good. Yeah. Last Dab tastes good.
So I did the same thing with my wife, except for I took Da Bomb out because I realized they don't even sell that.
Yeah.
You can get it on Amazon, but it's crap.
Yes.
So we did the flight with the final one at the time was Apollo.
Okay. Yeah.
And my wife started crying during that. She's like, "Why did you do this to me?
Yeah.
Did you think this was funny?" And I was like, "Oh no, I like that's just the sauce." And so I can't do that level of spice with her, but she'll mess around with some of the the hotter buffalo stuff.
And you talking about the whole like wing challenge there and getting the shirt. Just to tie it in, another YouTuber I like to watch. He's called Beard Meets Food. I don't know if you've ever heard of him. He's some guy from England, and he just travels around the world doing food challenges. And
sounds like Man versus Food. There was a whole show about it.
Yeah, it's obviously a play on that, but like that's Beard all he
versus
does.
Food.
Yeah, like Beard because he's got a
Man versus Food.
Oh, I saw, man. I love the promo for it. It's him with a chicken wing, boxing it. Yeah, that's good stuff. That guy ended up being like, that was the biggest mistake of my life, and lost all the weight that he gained.
Oh yeah, because
he was shortening his life incredibly.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, this guy at least he plans out the calories, and like he's super ripped and stuff. So
he's like, all right, I got to work out hard over the next week, and then I can go and I can eat this 10-ton steak of an elephant foot.
Dude, the stuff that he eats is ridiculous. And he did a wings challenge where it was like, you just had to eat as many wings as you can within like an hour. And I think he got up to like 60 something, like in an hour, and like 5 at a time is how they bring them out.
I used to eat 20 wings in every sitting.
Yeah.
Like that was the go-to. It is.
Is it?
Yeah.
I can't do it anymore. It's like 10. It might be too much now. I don't know what the hell happened, but we used to go to so before me and Ben moved to this space, to this studio area, we used to be over on Bishop Street in Portland next to a place called Samuel's. And that was legendary. We would have like all these creators come out, meet with us in Portland, and we would go have wing night. And I think there were sometimes the table was like 15 people or something.
Oh, wow.
And I'd get 20 wings every time when I was there, and I just ripped through them. And Ben's like, "You're insane. I can't do that. I can barely finish the 10 I have." I'm like, "Give me your extras."
Well, obviously you can't let the wings go to waste, especially if they're good. But 20 wing, I don't know if like my brain is calculating 20 wings.
Not full wings. That's like a drum, and then the leg. I'm sorry, the drum and then the wing. They're separated. Right?
Yeah.
So 20 altogether between flats and drums.
Okay, so it's 40 of the.
No. I'm
Okay,
sorry.
so-
Am I making this confusing? Imagine it's 10 drums, 10 flats.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That's a lot.
No, that's how I was picturing it, but it still doesn't seem. I don't know. I've always been like a big eater. Like there's down in Manchester,
Dude, I did it all the time. I don't know what happened. I hit like
uh,
42 or something, and I was
I got like 6 months left then.
Acid reflux.
you got to get it in.
Yeah, it sounds like I need to do that. 'Cause down in Manchester, there's a barbecue place that does.
Is this the Thirsty Moose or?
No. It's called what's it? Casey's Rib Shack. Casey's.
Oh yeah, I've been to
Casey's.
Casey's.
Casey's
Bob
is-
Shaw
yeah.
took us there
Yeah.
after Free Comic Book Day. That place is good.
It is. It's good.
I like
but
that
they
place.
have a family feed challenge, or like it's called the shovel.
Yeah, we got the shovel. Yeah.
So, and I don't even know if it's true anymore or not. But like, if one person could polish off the shovel,
It's free.
it's free. And
I couldn't do the shovel.
like there was a point where I probably could have pulled it off because I've seen the shovel and I'm like, it's
You
not,
think that until you're
It's-
halfway
it's
through,
like-
and then you're
Right,
like,
well,
But there's a
so-
bunch of stuff on it. It's got brisket, pulled
it's
pork,
brisket,
cornbread.
pork, yeah, like it's not a small. For those of you that don't know, it's a literal like snow shovel, like the big metal ones,
Filled with food.
filled with barbecue and fries or potato salad or something and cornbread and like it's fantastic. The food is great, and I'm pretty like I probably couldn't do it now. But
I don't know. I think you're gonna have to put yourself to the test
So-
here, sir.
because like here's the thing though, like
that's
back
going to
in
be a
the
future
day-
episode. We'll
Yeah,
just record
future
Nick's in there.
Yeah, it's
We're
apparently
recording live
final
from
episode.
Casey's Smoke Shack, and
it's
we
the
ordered
final
the shovel.
episode where Nick goes into
Your chowder
food
was
coma.
trash if you didn't try the shovel.
But like I used to be able to polish off like multiple racks of ribs like in a sitting, and I'm just like anyway. So some coworkers of mine at Comcast, sorry, I don't know, maybe I shouldn't say it. I don't know. Anyway, whatever. They were like, all right, so do you think you could do the shovel? And I said, I think I could probably do it. What do I get if I do it? They're like, well, nothing. And I was like, so what
You
if
want me
I
to spend
don't-
all this money to hurt myself?
So
Yeah.
no, they were gonna pay for it. So they were gonna pay for it. I was like,
you
so
get bragging rights,
so
dude.
if I win,
You finish
not
the
only
shovel.
do you guys not have to pay for it, I don't get anything. That's the deal breaker.
Yeah.
Like,
So what you do is you do it, and then you make sure you don't finish it, and be like, "Thanks for that meal, guys," and they just walk away. Like, mic drop.
I could have done that, but I was like, I don't know. I could. I feel like I probably could have done it at some point in time.
You could have done. I think based on what you've told me with the burgers and stuff like
Yeah,
that,
right?
you can
Especially
probably do
15
the shovel.
years ago, I probably could have pulled it off.
But like
Now-
20 wings is a lot. Like our local place that I love, they always get voted best wings in New Hampshire, and I typically get 10 wings from there, and that's good. Sometimes if I'm a little piggy, I'm like, oh, I'll do 16, which is their next step up, and that's rough for me. But the worst thing is I got to finish my plate. I'm that type of person. Like, my parents would make you clean your plate when you're a kid.
That's when we were
that
kids.
one.
Okay,
right?
how old are you?
40.
Okay.
So it's like, I have this thing where if it's on my plate, unless I'm gonna explode, I gotta eat it.
Yeah,
So the first time I ordered from there, I was like, there was one of the only places around that was around, because I live in the middle of the woods. It was one of the only places around that is open during the week before 4 p.m. So I was like, oh, sweet, and I love wings. So I ordered their wings and a side of fries. So apparently a side of fries there is not a side of fries. They don't do
It's
side
like-
of fries. Yeah. And I ate the 10 wings and the entire thing of fries. And I was laid out for like a couple hours.
The fries
afterwards.
is what gets you, man. If you're just eating straight up protein, you can go pretty far with
Yeah.
it. But I don't know what it is anymore. I think I had too many times where like the chicken wasn't just right, or maybe I don't like chicken that jiggles. Do you know what I'm saying? Like you're like, oh,
Yeah.
where it skeeved
That's
me
not
out
fair.
enough that like it. Typically, when I order wings, I'm like, well, I want these things cooked.
Yeah.
Because
crispy.
you have to, especially in some cases, like there's been a few places over the years where like I'd order a burger and I'm like, I say medium every time, and I'm like, here I gotta say like medium well, because
You're gonna leave it
I know
red in the
this
middle.
it's
Yeah.
not even red. It's like
All right, so we're talking about temperature steak. I'm a medium rare guy.
Yeah.
I'll even go rare.
So and that's
Depends
it.
on the
with
cut.
steak.
With
Burgers
steak,
have to be
that's
medium,
it. It's
but-
like the
Yeah.
steak is different. Like the ground beef, I'm like,
I was questioning my wife the other night because she goes, I'll take the steak medium. And I'm like, what the hell are you doing? So it comes out and she's like disappointed. I'm like, what's wrong? And she's like, they cooked it too much. I'm like, you said medium.
Yeah.
She goes, well, yeah, it should be pink. I'm like, that's medium rare. She's like, what? I'm like, oh my God, she had a brain fart or
Yeah.
something. She forgot the rare part.
Yeah.
And then her parents, it's always like, well done. I'm like,
Ugh,
why?
Why? Yeah.
I
But
thought you liked steak.
All the flavor's gone. You can't. Ugh.
Look, you know,
disgusting.
Yeah.
to eat.
Go grab your A1 sauce and ketchup while you're at it. Jesus.
Whew. Yeah,
It's
I
weird.
mean,
I put ketchup on steak, like steak bombs. I'll put ketchup on.
what about you fans of sushi?
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
I won't do the all-you-can-eat sushi. I'm good with 2 rolls and usually like
Yes.
the miso soup
Like
and like a salad.
like the 12, like the 10, 12 pieces of sushi right there, depending on the roll size.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
can deal with that.
There's a good place in Manchester called Kasaki's. It's right across from where GraniteCon happens, and they do all you can eat.
All right, don't post this.
All right. Thank you for telling us beforehand, so he knows to edit it out.
They a bunch of my friends went there at the last Granite State, and they were like, "We got fucking sick."
Yeah.
And I was like, "You're eating sushi in Manchester? Did you see the ocean right next
It's
door?
not far.
It's far enough."
I go there. So I go there, not frequently enough, but occasionally, and it's all they can do all you can eat for. It's like $32, $36. But it's not just sushi. You can get crab rangoons, you can get rice, you can get.
I'm only going to eat from one place, 2 places. I always do breakfast at the Red Arrow.
Yeah.
I love Red Arrow because I like a good diner. Who
Yeah.
the fuck doesn't like a good diner?
Yeah.
The only thing that I miss though is that Southern diners, generally speaking, a Waffle House or something will have this as grits.
Yeah.
Red Arrow doesn't have grits, but they do have that mug of bacon, which is always fun. Anyway, but yeah, generally speaking, every time I go to Manchester, it's always the Thirsty Moose. I mean, the menu's pretty decent, and
So if you enjoy the Thirsty Moose, there's one in Portsmouth
oh, okay,
that is. I think that's the original one. It's way better. The
Oh,
Manchester
really?
one is very like collegey, sceney,
yeah.
where the one in Portsmouth is more like a little down and dirty. Which
The
I
reason we
prefer.
go there is because it's across the street.
It's across the street. Yeah. But I'm just saying, if you're in the
It's
area,
not
there's
far.
one in Portsmouth right on what's the main road there?
Don't look at me.
I don't know
All right.
Portsmouth at all.
Oh, okay. Right
I
on
mean,
the main road. Period.
you do realize Portland's right there, and there's like 5-star restaurants there. Like,
Yeah.
you guys, next time you're up in this area, there's a place called Crispy Guy,
Yeah. Okay.
Vietnamese fried chicken.
Oh,
Holy
That
smokes!
sounds fantastic.
it does.
It's amazing.
That does sound fantastic.
I have to go home.
Yeah, I was gonna say. The sun's down, the streetlights are on. That means our parents are expecting us home. So,
Do you know where your kids
yeah.
are?
Tell everybody where they can find you, Joe. All your good stuff. Where they can find
right.
your books and everything. So,
Launching this weekend, midnightfactorypress.com will have books that we've been making. Only things with the Midnight Factory label on them. There'll be pre-orders for 7 Years in Darkness Volumes 1 and 2. 7 Years in Darkness Year 3 begins in April. So subscribe to that at your local comic book shop. Ask for it by name because it is an indie. And then We Don't Kill Spiders Season of the Witch #1 will be coming out in July. During San Diego will be like its premiere. You can find me on Patreon. Joseph, I think it's Schmalke at Patreon, or you can just put in SCHMALKE Patreon, or you can follow me on Instagram at Schmalke, and that has a link to my Patreon. In that group, I put out a quarterly box with exclusive books or merch. The Q1 box, if you subscribe this month, will include a Patreon edition of 7 Years in Darkness Year 2 graphic novel, and it will have Something is Killing the Children #1 archive edition with a special edition cover by me, and 7 Years in Darkness Year 3 #1 Patreon edition. So that's in the first quarter box. And then you can follow me on Facebook. There's the Schmalke Army on Facebook. That is not a group I run. It is run by fans. But you can go and sign up to be part of that. I usually post things there first.
Awesome.
Fantastic. Yeah. Well, we appreciate you coming on and being our guinea pig for our first
Our first live event.
We'll have to
follow back up.